It was supposed to be a celebration of inspiration, until Oprah Winfrey revealed that even the world's greatest motivator can run out of words to heal. Studio 6B was filled with reverent anticipation that Wednesday evening. The Tonight Show's signature blue and gold lights cast their familiar warm glow as the Roots laid down a soulful, respectful groove. 300 audience members filled every seat, their energy both electric and deeply respectful for one of the most influential figures in modern media. Jimmy Fallon, impeccable in his navy suit, bounded onto the stage with that infectious enthusiasm, though noticeably tempered with the profound respect due to tonight's legendary guest. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jimmy announced with genuine awe, "please welcome someone who has touched millions of lives, changed countless hearts, and inspired the world for over 4 decades, the incomparable Oprah Winfrey." The applause was thunderous and sustained, bordering on worship, as Oprah emerged from backstage. At 69, she moved with that unmistakable presence that had made her not just a media mogul, but a cultural force of nature. Her elegant burgundy blazer was perfectly tailored, her silver hair styled with characteristic grace, and that smile, that famous Oprah smile that had launched 1,000 dreams, was radiant as ever, though there was something slightly more measured about her energy tonight. She waved to the adoring crowd with that characteristic warmth that had made her America's confidant, her movements graceful, but somehow carrying a weight that hadn't been there in her younger years. When she spoke her first words, "Hello, Jimmy. Hello, beautiful people," her voice carried that familiar power to make everyone feel seen, but there was something almost careful about her tone. "Oprah," Jimmy exclaimed, practically glowing with admiration. "You look absolutely magnificent. I have to say, having you here is like hosting royalty. You are literally the queen of inspiration." Something almost imperceptible flickered across Oprah's face at the word inspiration, a brief tightening around her eyes that suggested the compliment wasn't entirely welcome. "That's very kind of you to say, Jimmy," she replied with a smile that seemed to require more effort than usual. The conversation began smoothly, touching on Oprah's latest projects, her media empire, and her thoughts on the current state of the world. Every answer was articulate and thoughtful, delivered with the wisdom and gravitas that had made her one of the most trusted voices of her generation. But there was something slightly less energetic about her responses, as if she was drawing from a well that wasn't quite as full as it used to be. "You know, Oprah," Jimmy said, leaning forward with obvious admiration, "your impact on this world is just immeasurable. You've helped people through their darkest moments. You've changed lives. You've given hope to millions. You're basically the human embodiment of inspiration itself." Oprah's smile became more strained. "Jimmy, I appreciate those words, but—" "Which is perfect," Jimmy interrupted, reaching into his jacket with renewed enthusiasm, "because I thought we'd celebrate that incredible legacy tonight with something special. I'm calling it the Inspirational Moments Quiz." The audience immediately perked up, excited at the prospect of reliving Oprah's most powerful moments. Oprah's expression became noticeably more guarded. "Oh my," Oprah said with a laugh that sounded slightly forced. "Jimmy, I'm not sure." "It's going to be beautiful," Jimmy explained, pulling out elegant cards. "I've got some of your most transformative moments here, the interviews that changed lives, the moments that gave people hope. Everyone watching will get to remember why you're such a beacon of light." Oprah looked at the cards, then at Jimmy, then at the expectant audience. When she spoke, her voice was quieter than anyone had ever heard it. "Jimmy, I need you to stop calling me that." "Calling you what?" Jimmy asked, his enthusiasm beginning to falter. "A beacon of light, an inspiration, the queen of hope." Oprah's voice carried a weariness that was shocking to hear from someone known for her endless energy. Because right now, I don't feel like any of those things. The studio fell into an uncomfortable silence as everyone tried to process what was happening. This wasn't the Oprah they knew from decades of television. Jimmy set down his cards and leaned forward, his entertainer's instincts completely replaced by human concern. Oprah, what do you mean? Oprah looked out at the sea of expectant faces, and when she spoke again, her voice carried a vulnerability that was heartbreaking to hear from someone who had spent decades being everyone else's strength. I'm tired, Jimmy. Bone deep, soul deep tired. I've been everyone's source of hope for 40 years, and I don't have any left for myself. The audience was completely transfixed. This wasn't the Oprah they knew from magazine covers and inspirational speeches. Do you know what it's like? Oprah continued, tears beginning to form in her eyes. To have people look at you like you're supposed to have all the answers. To have strangers come up to you expecting you to fix their lives with a few wise words. The pain in her voice was so raw that several audience members were visibly moved. Jimmy made a decision that transcended television. He stood up from behind his desk and walked around to sit in the chair beside Oprah. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was one human being trying to support another who was clearly carrying an impossible burden. When did you realize you were running on empty? Jimmy asked gently. A few months ago, Oprah replied immediately. I was at a book signing, and this young woman came up to me crying. She told me her life was falling apart, and she needed me to tell her what to do, how to find hope. And I looked at her, and I had nothing. No wisdom, no inspiration, no magic words, just emptiness. The vulnerability in her admission was devastating. The worst part was, Oprah continued, I could see the disappointment in her face when I couldn't give her what she needed, like I'd failed at the one thing I'm supposed to be good at, like I'd broken some sacred contract between Oprah and the world. Jimmy stayed quiet, letting her continue. You want to know the truth about being everyone's inspiration? Oprah asked, and there was something almost desperate in her question. It means you're never allowed to be uninspired. You're never allowed to be lost or confused or just human, because if Oprah doesn't have the answers, who does? Tears were flowing freely now, and the sight of Oprah Winfrey, the woman who had dried countless tears, crying about her own exhaustion, was profound. I've given so much of myself away, Oprah said, her voice breaking, that I don't know what's left. Every interview, every speech, every moment of connection, I've poured my soul into other people's healing. But who heals the healer, Jimmy? Who inspires the inspiration? The silence in the studio was complete except for the sound of Oprah's quiet sobbing. And the thing that kills me, Oprah continued, is that I feel guilty about feeling this way, like I'm ungrateful for this incredible platform I've been given, like I'm selfish for wanting to not be strong for once. Oprah, Jimmy said with profound gentleness, what if I told you that what you just shared, that honesty, that admission that you're human and fallible and tired, is the most inspiring thing you could possibly say? How can emptiness be inspiring? Oprah asked. Because it's real, Jimmy said with conviction. Because for 40 years, you've shown people what strength looks like, but today, you're showing them what courage looks like. The courage to admit when you need support instead of always giving it. A small smile began to creep across Oprah's face through her tears. You know what I think? Jimmy continued. I think maybe the most powerful thing you can do right now is give yourself permission to not be everyone's answer, to be someone who's still figuring things out, still learning, still growing. But what if people don't want a confused Oprah? She asked, and there was something almost childlike in the question. What if they only love me for what I can give them? Then they were never really seeing you to begin with, Jimmy said simply. Because the real Oprah, the one sitting here right now, honest about her struggles, brave enough to be vulnerable, she's infinitely more valuable than any inspirational quote. When they returned from commercial break, they had a completely different conversation. Oprah talked about the pressure of being a public healer, about the difference between inspiring others and sustaining yourself, about learning to receive support instead of always giving it. The thing about being everyone's source of hope, Oprah said as the interview wound down, is that you forget you need hope too. You forget that healers need healing, that teachers need teaching, that even inspirational figures need inspiration. Jimmy nodded thoughtfully. And maybe the most inspiring thing you can do is show people that it's okay to be empty sometimes, because that's when you make room for something new to grow. Maybe, Oprah said, and for the first time in the entire interview, her smile looked completely genuine. Maybe the most honest thing I can say right now is, I don't know, and maybe that's exactly what people need to hear. It wasn't just late-night television. It was a reminder that even those who dedicate their lives to lifting others up need to be lifted up themselves, and that sometimes the most powerful message we can share is simply, I'm human too, and that's enough.